Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Welcome to this segment of Coach Gurbani's a-sabad-a-day. Our recitation is the 17th stanza of the Jup Pauri, and it reads as follows. Asank Jup, Asank Pao, Asank Puja, Asank Taptao, Asank Granth, Mukh Ved Part, Asank Jog, Man Rahe Udas, Asank Bhagat, Gun Gyan Vichar, Asank Sati, Asank Datar, Asank Sur, Moh Baksar, Asank Maun Levlaye Tar, Kudrat Kavan Kaha Vichar, Varya न जावा एक वार जो तुद पावे साई पलीकार तू सदा सलामत निरंकार. We notice here that there is a refrain here. Kudrat kavan kaha vichar, varya na jama ek var. These are lines that are running through Pauri 16 through 19, the concluding lines. And we've seen this occur in the Sune Mane Pauris. And so therefore there is a pattern running through these Asank Pauris, as they are called. And let's spend a minute or two or five going through a quick line-by-line translation to get a better sense of what Guru Nanak is saying here. Asank Jap, Asank Pao. Countless the recitations, he says. Countless the expressions of faith. So Jap here refers to the practice of reciting mantras or reading scripture, as opposed to the name of the text or the Bani that we are considering. Jap, as used here, was and remains a prevalent religious practice across faith tradition. Similarly, Pao in this context is an expression of devotion or longing. Now, Guru Nanak, of course, is speaking from the perspective of a Panch. And what he's saying is that despite the innumerable methods, practices, and professions of faith, the true path is one of divine knowledge that is obtained from the true Guru. Vin Satguru, Paratit na ave, Naam na lago pao. Asank puja, asank taptao. Countless the modes of worship, countless the practice of austerities. Puja, like Jap, again, is a very prevalent mode of religion, a practice, and it involves the offering of something to incur favor with a deity. Tap Tao literally means to heat up and refers to the practices aimed at heating the body or producing inner heat in the expectation that it would purify the body and prepare it for the goal of moksha or liberation. True offering, however, as Guruji is telling us, is within, namely the exchange of haume for hukam, which comes from inscribing the sandalwood-like divine knowledge on the slate of the mind. Tera naam kari chananthya je man ursa hoye karani kungu je rale ghat antar puja hoye. It's all an inner process. Asank Granth, Mukh Ved Part. Granth, again an arrangement of words, a religious text, or a treatise that owes its authorship, generally speaking, to the head of a religious sect and is read out aloud, as in a chant. But again, Guruji reminds us that the true scripture is the one that flows from the Guru's mouth. Gurmukh Nadang, Gurmukh Vedang, Gurmukh Reha Samai. Asank Jog, Man Rahe Udas. Again, countless the ways of seeking union, and countless renunciates. Now, jog is a variation on the word yoga, which means to yoke or fasten to. And yogis yoke themselves to a particular practice or discipline to achieve the state of jog, union. So the word signifies both the training and the goal. And this practice is often accompanied by withdrawal, udas, although it also refers to a sect of yogis called udasis, attributed to Sri Chand, who, as we all know, was Guru Nanak's son. Asank Bhagat Gun Gyan Vichar. Countless the devotees and countless their dwelling on the excellences, various knowledges and wisdom. A Bhagat, of course, literally means one who is gifted and fortunate, and refers to devotees who contemplate qualities, insight and experience. Asank Sati, Asank Datar. Sati, literally a virtuous woman, here used as an appellation for truth seekers who conceive of themselves as brides of the divine, and Datar, those engaged in charitable giving as a religious activity. But Gurbani reminds us the truly virtuous receive their instruction from the Guru within. Kaho Nanak Guru Naam Dridaya, Har Har Naam Har Sati. Asank Sur Moh Pakasar. Countless the warriors of the spirit who face steely disciplines with courage. Asank Mon Live Layadar. Countless practice silence to attune their minds. But without intuitive knowledge, all these practices cannot overcome the obstacle of haume. Naam na jape kyun sukh pawe, bin naame kyun so hai, mund mudaye jata sikh-a-sabad-a-day, mon rahe abhimanna. That despite all of these practices, abhiman, pride, does not really leave you. And then, Khudrat Kavan Kaha Vichar, how can your creation be described? Varya na jawa ekvar. Guruji is speaking, I am awestruck, unworthy even to try. Jo tud pave sai palikar. Your pleasure is my command, literally. Your hukam is my inner command. You, the eternal, the living, the formless, tu sada salamat nirankar. So we were talking about a familiar refrain that runs through Pauris 16 and 19, Jotud Pave Sai Palikar. And this is a pattern that we've alluded to earlier that we see in Jup Bani when he clusters passages together by threading them with a shared concluding catchphrase. And so in Pauris 16 to 19, the underlying message, as always, is to hearken us back to Hukam. In these passages, the message is played back in different contexts. In this context, the punch's role discussed in Pauri 60 comes into play because the punch is the very embodiment of Hukam. So in this Pauri, Guru Nanak contrasts the spectrum of religious and spiritual practice that was in vogue and is in fact very prevalent today against the way of Gurmat, with the enlightened consciousness of the punch serving as a backdrop. So now at first glance, it might appear that this is just a litany of various spiritual practices. But if you examine them closely, Guru Nanak is simply not cataloguing these various activities, nor is he actually putting his stamp of approval on them. Quite the contrary. Recall that beginning with Pauri 1 and onwards, Guru Nanak has repeatedly called out these practices as ineffective and misdirected. A punch, as we saw in the previous Pauri, affirms that the voice of Hukam that speaks in the recesses of one's consciousness is the true command that must be obeyed. What that means is that our actions must be in harmony and purposeful in advancing the larger creative principle of Hukam. Now, each one of these activities that we listed is addressed individually in Gurbani, and we quoted a few lines from Gurbani to actually give you examples of what the real import of these practices is or should be from a Gurmat perspective. And it is a warning, yet again, not to confuse ideologies, ritual, scriptural readings, and charitable giving for the real thing, which is surrender or submission to Hukam. a path that does not invite resistance or counter reactions, as we have seen earlier. We leave you with these thoughts for today. Until the next time, Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.